Could Mother Nature end up changing one of England's biggest World Cup matches before a ball is even kicked? It sounds unusual, but that's exactly what officials are now considering. England's highly anticipated clash with Mexico was originally scheduled for a very late kickoff for UK viewers, sparking debates about school attendance, work schedules, pub opening hours, and public safety. Now, severe weather forecasts have introduced an entirely new twist, with FIFA reportedly discussing moving the match to an earlier time to avoid potential disruption. This isn't just about football anymore. It's also about how major sporting events are managed when unpredictable weather threatens player safety, fans, and the overall tournament schedule. As you watch, pay attention to how different stakeholders, from government officials to police and supporters, are all affected by what appears to be a simple scheduling decision. What do you think? Should FIFA prioritize fan convenience whenever possible, or should safety always be the only deciding factor? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Interesting developments are ahead. Watch the full clip, and afterward I'll share my thoughts on why this story matters beyond just one football match. If you enjoy football news and in-depth analysis, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.
Breaking news, and it could be good news for England fans potentially. The England game against Mexico could be moved from its 1 a.m. kickoff time on Monday morning because of the threat of thunderstorms, potentially moved earlier so that kickoff would be on Sunday evening. This is because of the threat of lightning strikes. So we know that the weather has already impacted some matches at the World Cup. When France beat Iraq 3-0 in Philadelphia, a thunderstorm caused a 2-hour delay. Mexico and Ecuador also had to wait an extra hour to start their match because of a thunderstorm in Mexico City. According to US rules, play must be stopped if a lightning strike is detected within 8 miles of a stadium. A match can only resume after 30 minutes has passed since the last lightning strike, and that countdown resets if more inclement weather arrives. So not temperatures causing the problem. In fact, it's only going to be in the low 20s, we understand, for that England game. Not the high temperature, but rather the threat of lightning strikes. So the breaking news: England's face-off with Mexico in the World Cup could be moved earlier, potentially to noon local time, which would be 7 p.m. on Sunday. Let's go to our People and Politics correspondent. Not that long ago, you were in a pub speaking to punters about the fact that England fans were going to have to wait until 1 a.m. on Monday morning to watch this clash with Mexico. But we are now hearing that potentially, and of course a lot depends on weather forecasts over the next 48 hours, it could be moved earlier.
Well, what a roller coaster this is. I can't keep up, Jonathan, but, you know, it's all up in the air at the moment. But we have been talking a lot about this today. As you say, the original kickoff between England and Mexico was due to be 6 p.m. Mexico City time. That was going to be a kickoff of 1 a.m. in the early hours of Monday. And that got everybody talking because obviously it was so late. And what were we going to do? Were we going to stay up? Were we going to go to work the next day? Were children going to go to school? Then, after England progressed through to that stage, the government turned around and said, look, have a great time. We're going to lengthen the licensing hours so that pubs can stay open until 5 a.m. And everyone was like, well, this is brilliant. And then the police today said, well, hang on, this is all a bit short notice. And there was a kind of mini row between the body representing police forces and the UK, and the police said, look, we've only got a few days to sort this out. We might have to pull police officers from the community to try and police this in the early hours. And all the venues were gearing up to accept thousands of people in the middle of the night. And now a storm storm predicted to cross over the Azteca Stadium is putting all of that in doubt. And it now means that potentially that kickoff will start 7 p.m. UK time, which changes the whole complexion of this story. And now I suppose the big question now is what the government do if that turns out to be the case. Because at the moment we've got an open door for pubs to stay open until 5 a.m. Will the Prime Minister have to come back and say, party's over, we're going to go back to the original licensing laws? So an absolute roller coaster of a story, and I'm not really quite sure whether I can keep track of it.
No, it's a very good point. Just to reiterate the breaking news then, England's World Cup last 16 tie with Mexico could be moved from its current 1 a.m. UK time kickoff. That game was scheduled to begin at 6 p.m. local time, but because of storms, as we've been saying, it could now be moved earlier. And actually, for many fans, this is good news if it does happen, because watching a game at 7 p.m. on a Sunday evening is perfectly reasonable. I think many people were having quite a hard decision over the weekend whether to stay up and risk being exhausted on Monday morning. And of course, there's also been a bit of a debate about whether school kids should be allowed to go to school a bit later if they stayed up to watch the match.
That's right. The England coach said, write them a note, let them off. And then Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, was forced to say, look, if they do watch the game in the middle of the night, please try and make sure that they get up for school in the morning. So, you know, the whole idea of the timings of this game has caused quite the debate in the United Kingdom, from schools to pubs opening to safety to policing. You know, it's really been quite an interesting turn of events, which makes the change of the time of the match really quite significant. As you say, a 7 p.m. kickoff on a Sunday is far nicer generally all round. Although I did speak to a lot of people in London today, mostly Aussies, gearing up to watch their game against Egypt tonight. And people were saying they don't mind watching it in that time. They were just going to treat it like a normal game. But, you know, the practicalities are obvious. If you're going to roll in, having been to the match at until 5 a.m., then, you know, that is going to have a knock-on effect for work and school. And, you know, can people get trains back? And I think that's one of the reasons why the police were initially concerned at the sort of last-minute notice of the government's change to those licensing laws. But I think if it does change, and we are waiting for confirmation of that, if the kickoff time does change because of this suspected or predicted storm, then I think generally all round that will be a better situation. But the question is whether the government have to intervene and say, OK, we're now scrapping the idea of opening pubs until 5 a.m. and that means we've come full circle again to the beginning.
Yeah, and pubs have already probably organised extra staff, extra bouncers, extra people behind the bar. So that will all have to change. Interesting stuff. Nick, thank you very much.
If a weather forecast can reshape an entire matchday experience, what does that say about the growing challenges facing international football? One thing that stood out in this discussion is how one possible scheduling change creates a ripple effect far beyond the stadium itself. The conversation wasn't simply about moving kickoff by a few hours. It highlighted how a single decision could affect supporters, businesses, schools, police resources, public transport, and even government planning. Another interesting point was the balance between safety and logistics. The weather regulations surrounding lightning are designed to protect everyone involved, and the discussion made it clear that these aren't arbitrary decisions. When severe weather becomes a genuine possibility, organisers have to consider whether adjusting the schedule is preferable to lengthy delays or interruptions during the match. The debate also showed just how much football influences everyday life. Before the possibility of a schedule change emerged, there had already been discussions about extended pub opening hours, school attendance, and staffing arrangements. If the kickoff moves to a more convenient evening slot, many of those concerns become far less significant. At the same time, businesses that had already prepared for an overnight event may suddenly have to rethink their plans. One notable takeaway is that flexibility has become increasingly important in modern sporting events. With unpredictable weather, global television audiences, and complex tournament schedules, organisers are often forced to make decisions quickly while balancing safety, fairness, and fan experience. Ultimately, this story is about much more than football. It shows how a major sporting event can impact communities, public services, and everyday routines in ways many people don't immediately notice. Whatever decision FIFA ultimately makes, it will likely be judged not only on convenience, but also on whether it ensures the safest and fairest conditions for everyone involved. What would you prefer? Keep the original kickoff time or move the match earlier if severe weather is expected? Share your thoughts in the comment, so I'd love to hear your opinion. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss future football updates and discussions. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.